Every single person watching this is religious. You might hate the label. You might not have stepped into a church in over a decade. But your life is a series of sacrifices made at an altar you likely haven't named yet. Every choice that you make, every anxiety you feel, and every goal you chase is a form of worship. Now, before you click away, whether you call yourself an atheist, a Christian, or neither, this isn't about labels. We're going to attempt to walk through the raw metaphysical questions of hierarchy and see exactly where they point. So please stick with me, because the question isn't if you believe in a God. The question is the God you're currently serving worth the life that you're giving it? You live life as if it has structure, and structure implies order, and order implies hierarchy, and every hierarchy has something at the top. Every single action you take moves towards what you perceive to be the highest good in that moment. When you choose sleep over work, comfort over discipline, status over humility, pleasure over restraint, you are revealing what you believe is ultimately worth pursuing. If there were no highest good, no final cause, then every action would collapse into randomness. There would be no reason to prefer one choice over another, no reason to get out of bed, no reason to love, no reason to endure suffering. But you do get out of bed, and you do choose, which means you already believe in something ultimate. So the question is not whether you worship, the question is what do you worship? If someone followed you for a week, not listening to your words, but watching your habits, what would they conclude sits at the top of your hierarchy? Now, every action begins in lack. You feel hunger, loneliness, restlessness, curiosity, a sense that something is unfinished. In classical metaphysics, this is described through the language of act and potency. Potency is the capacity to become what you are not yet, and act is the fulfillment of that capacity. You are hungry. There is a potential state in which you are full. You are ignorant of something. There is a potential state in which you understand. You are lonely. There is a potential state in which you are united. To act is to move from potency into actuality. But here is the crucial point. Nothing moves without an end. Aquinas states it bluntly. Every agent acts for an end. You do not eat randomly. You eat because fullness appears as good. You do not study randomly. You study because knowledge appears as good. You do not pursue relationships randomly. You pursue them because communion appears as good. Action requires direction. Direction requires an end, and an end implies value. You only move because something appears better than where you currently stand. Even the simplest impulse presupposes a judgment. This is good to pursue. But that judgment reveals something deeper. It reveals that your will is ordered towards what you perceive as good, and not just any good, ultimately towards the good. Now here is where things become a little bit unsettling. If your will is naturally drawn toward the good as such, toward goodness without limitation, then no finite object can ultimately satisfy it. Money cannot, because money is not an end. It is a tool. Its value is always derivative. It points beyond itself to something else. Status cannot, because status depends entirely on other people's perceptions. It fluctuates, it evaporates. Pleasure cannot, because pleasure is fleeting by nature. It rises, peaks, and fades. And what once thrilled you eventually bores you. Even noble goods, career, achievement, romance, remain finite. They can be lost, they can be corrupted, they can end in death. Aquinas argues in his Summa Theologiae that it is impossible for human happiness to consist in any created good. Why? Because every created thing is limited, and the human will does not merely desire this or that particular good, it desires goodness without restriction. This is why satisfaction never lasts. You reach for something you thought would complete you, the promotion, the relationship, the physique, the bank balance, and for a moment you feel relief. And then the horizon moves, the hunger returns, not because you are broken, but because you are aiming too low. Finite goods are real goods, but they were never meant to be ultimate goods. When you try to make them ultimate, they collapse under the weight. It's like trying to power your entire house by plugging an extension cord into itself. There is structure, there is circuitry, but there is no source, no energy or power. Finite goods don't just fail to satisfy you, they shape you. Worship is not merely about what you pursue, it's about what you are becoming. The psalmist writes that idols are silver and gold, the work of human hands. Those who make them become like them. In other words, you resemble what you revere. Augustine of Hippo put it even more simply. You become what you love. Love is not passive, it is formative. Whatever holds your highest devotion slowly reorganises your interior world. It trains your perception, it conditions your desires, it reshapes your character. If you worship money, you become transactional. Every relationship becomes a calculation. Every risk becomes a threat. Anxiety becomes your constant companion, because what you love can vanish overnight. If you worship pleasure, you become restless. Your nervous system grows impatient. Silence becomes unbearable. Ordinary life feels dull. You require stronger stimulation just to feel normal. If you worship status, you become fragile. Your identity depends on applause. Criticism feels like annihilation. And if you worship yourself, you fragment. You must constantly reinvent who you are to preserve your self-image. You curate, perform, defend, adjust, and beneath it all is exhaustion. This is not poetic exaggeration, it's psychological law. In Aquinas' framework, the will conforms itself to the object it clings to. When you treat a finite good as if it were the ultimate, your will becomes disordered. Not because the good is evil, but because you have assigned it a role it cannot fulfill. Pleasure is good, money is good, achievement is good, but they are not God. And when you crown them as such, they begin to deform you. False gods are cruel. They demand everything and give nothing permanent in return. They promise freedom and produce addiction. They promise identity and produce anxiety. They promise fulfillment and produce emptiness. Look around. We are not irreligious. We are overrun with gods that cannot save us. In the 19th century, Friedrich Nietzsche wrote the infamous line, "God is dead." But he did not write it as a victory chant. He wrote it as a warning. If there is no ultimate ground of being, no transcendent source of truth and goodness, then every value becomes negotiable. Every moral claim becomes preference. Every hierarchy becomes power. Without a highest good that is real, all goods dissolve into competition. When transcendence disappears, culture does not become neutral, it fragments. If there is no ultimate truth, then truth becomes utility. If there is no ultimate good, then good becomes whatever benefits me. If there is no ultimate end, then life becomes distraction until death. You cannot remove the foundation and keep the structure. You cannot dethrone God and preserve meaning. Because if there is no being itself grounding all things, then nothing ultimately explains why anything matters at all. And yet, you still live life as if it does. You still condemn injustice, you still seek love, you still recoil at betrayal, you long for beauty. But why? Because your nature is ordered towards something beyond the finite. You are built for transcendence. So, how do we know which God is real? There are thousands of religions, thousands of claims, thousands of gods. But does that mean none are true? No more than 100 wrong answers to a mathematical equation mean there is no correct one. The difficulty of a question does not erase the existence of an answer. If anything, it reveals the stakes. What we require is not a culturally comforting deity, not a projection of human wishes, not a tribal mascot. We require a God who is metaphysically necessary, not one being among many, but being itself. Aquinas describes God as ipsum esse subsistens, subsistent being itself, pure actuality, the uncaused cause, the reality in whom essence and existence are identical. Not a powerful creature, but the source of all existence. Every breath you take is participation in that being. Every heartbeat depends upon it. Every moment of consciousness is sustained by it. God is not competing with other goods. He is the reason there are goods at all. He is not one flame among many. He is the fire from which all light comes. And only that which is infinite can satisfy a desire which is ordered toward unlimited good. Beneath every desire you have ever felt, there is something deeper. Beneath hunger for food is hunger for fullness. Beneath hunger for intimacy is hunger for union. Beneath hunger for achievement is hunger for significance. Beneath all of it is a single, unrelenting longing, not just for this or that good, but for goodness itself. That longing is not an accident. It is not a glitch in your psychology. It is a signpost. Every time you thought this will finally do it and it didn't, that wasn't proof that nothing satisfies. It was proof that you mistook a fragment for the source. You were not made for fragments. You were not made for closed circuits of craving. You were made for the infinite. And this is the turning point. Because if your desire is structured for the infinite, then the answer cannot be found in rearranging finite things. Not more money, not more pleasure, not perfect control. The answer must be beyond the system. Take a moment and be honest. What sits at the top of your hierarchy? Is it comfort? Then suffering will destroy you. Is it approval? Then criticism will unravel you. Is it control? Then uncertainty will terrify you. Is it pleasure? Then boredom will hollow you out. Every false god eventually reveals its cruelty, because it demands ultimate loyalty without possessing ultimate stability. It asks for sacrifice, time, attention, energy, relationships, but it cannot promise permanence. And you become like what you worship. If your God is unstable, you become unstable. If your God is shallow, you become shallow. If your God is fragmented, you become fragmented. If your God is eternal, if your God is truth itself, if your God is goodness without limit, then worship does not shrink you. It enlarges you. It integrates you. It orders your scattered desires into harmony. Only the infinite can properly order the finite. Only the Creator can correctly position created things. When the highest good is truly highest, everything else falls into its proper place. Money becomes a tool, not a master. Pleasure becomes a gift, not a tyrant. Achievement becomes service, not identity. Nothing is destroyed. Everything is rightly ordered. You have always been worshipping. You have always been moving. You have always been aiming at something. The only question is whether what you are aiming at is real enough to hold the weight of your soul. God does not need your belief to exist. He is not strengthened by your worship nor diminished by your doubt. He is being itself, the uncaused cause, the source from which every good thing flows. The restlessness you feel is not random. It is a summons. It is the echo of the infinite calling back finite to itself. Not merely to believe in God, but to participate in Him. Not merely to argue about Him, but to be transformed by Him. Lay down the gods that have broken you. Release the idols that have exhausted you. Turn from what deforms you towards what can actually make you whole. Because in the end, all false gods go silent. All finite lights burn out. All created things pass. But the true God does not flicker. He is. And He has been the door in front of you your entire life, waiting. He is. Not an idea, not an abstraction, not a distant principle in the metaphysical necessity. He is. Being itself did not remain distant. Being took on flesh. The Gospel of John opens with the words that echo the deepest metaphysics ever written. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then the unthinkable. The Word became flesh. The one whom Aquinas called ipsum esse subsistens did not remain pure transcendence. He entered history, not as a symbol, not as a myth, but as a man. Jesus Christ is not one religious teacher among many. He is not merely moral guidance wrapped in parable. He is the visible face of the invisible ground of all existence. The hunger for goodness without limit. The hunger has a name. The longing for truth that does not collapse. The truth has a voice. The desire for love that does not decay. That love has wounds. In Christ, the infinite does not annihilate the finite, it fulfills it. This is why the cross is not merely an act of suffering, it is a collision of being and brokenness. On the cross, every false god is exposed, power is unmasked, violence is unmasked, pride is unmasked, Control is unmasked, and they do their worst. And yet being does not collapse, love does not collapse, goodness does not collapse, because what hangs there is not merely a man, but the source of all existence entering death and undoing it from the inside. You want proof that finite goods cannot save you? Look at how easily they crucify what threatens them. You want proof that infinite love is real? Look who rises. The resurrection is not just a miracle, it is a metaphysical vindication. It is being itself proving that non-being does not get the final word, that death does not get the final word, that your longing is not absurd. Christ is not an optional addition to the structure of reality. He is the structure revealed. In him, transcendence is no longer abstract, it is personal. The fire that you were made for has a face. The door you have been standing before is not a concept, it is a person. This is where everything changes. Because if Christ is who he claims to be, not just a teacher, not just a prophet, but I am, then worship is no longer vague aspiration. It becomes encounter. You are not reaching blindly into the dark towards an unknown infinite. You're responding to a God who stepped toward you first. The idols you clung to cannot bleed for you, they cannot forgive you, they cannot restore what you have broken, but Christ can. Because he is not a finite competitor in your hierarchy of goods. He is the source of the hierarchy itself. When you worship money, you shrink. When you worship pleasure, you scatter. When you worship yourself, you fracture. But when you worship Christ, you do not lose yourself. You become fully alive. Because in him, your potency finds its true act. Your restlessness finds its rest. Your fragmentation finds integration. Your longing meets its object. This is why the saints burn, not with fanaticism, but with participation. They are not consumed, they are illuminated. Because grace is not the destruction of nature, it is nature fulfilled. Grace is a fire, and that fire does not destroy what is true in you, it purifies what is false. You were always worshipping, you were always moving, you were always seeking being. Now you know his name. So the question is no longer, do I worship? The question is, will you continue offering yourself to gods that cannot save you? Or will you step through the door that has been standing open the entire time? Christ does not force himself to the top of your hierarchy, he waits. But if you place him there, not as an idea, not as an ornament, but as Lord, everything beneath him will finally make sense. And for the first time in your life, your worship will not deform you, it will transfigure you.